Okay. Morning. All right. Well, my brother Andrew in there tells me it's time for us to get started. And I am certainly glad to see everybody that's here this morning. Well, we're here. We might as well. I don't know where everybody is today, but we got a lot of empty seats. So, Tom, I'm going to put you in charge of recruiting. Okay. Get them in here.
I need to go right now?
No, you don't have to right now. But I am certainly glad to see everyone this morning. It's a beautiful day. There's something wet out there, so I don't know what that is. It rained once when I was a kid, but Mama wouldn't take me to go see it. I have a deal here, a paper that says, please announce. So I'm going to announce this. And I'll just read it. It says, it's that time of year again, time to send out college care packages to our University Church of Christ kids who are home or away at college. We found that it seems to work better to get cash donations and then buy all of the snacks and goodies at one time so that there is the proper amount of everything that we need. If you would like to donate a few dollars to this fun event for the college kids, please see Christy Renner or Susan Clayton. Okay, you got that? See Christy or Susan. Donate a few bucks. Help them get these packages together. Okay, I've announced it. My responsibility is covered there. But it is always good to see all of you here, and I appreciate you coming to my class to encourage me. I have found over the years that I have been teaching classes and preaching, I have found that it is easier. You'd have never thought this, but it is easier for me to get in front of a large group than to have, a smaller group. I'm not saying that the quality's not there, but it just seems to encourage me more, and it's a little easier for me for a large group. So I've got Tom in charge of recruiting. He's going to fill up the auditorium for next week. But I want to go back and we're going to kind of just real quick get a rehash of what we've covered so far in Mark. We've made it up to chapter 3. We're going to start with verse 20 here in a little bit. But what we've got so far is Mark begins at the time when Jesus begins his public life. He's going to start to work on what his mission is. And what we've got covered so far, Jesus has established kind of a home in Capernaum, and he has chosen 12 men. We covered a little bit about these 12. These 12 men came from different backgrounds, but they were all remarkable men at what they were doing. And one thing that I found interesting, and I use this a lot, don't be offended if you're a coffee shop guy. But Jesus did not find those 12 men at the coffee shop. Where were they? They were working. He found these 12 men, and I brought my list. I didn't want to write this down, but I've got a list here, all 12 of them, what the records say, where they came from, what a little bit about their background, and where they worked after when the kingdom was established. If you want me to go through that, I can. If not, then we won't study that part this morning. Jesus knew people. And he knew these 12 men better than they knew themselves. They had to be somebody special to leave an impression. And Jesus said, okay, if you're that good at what you're doing here, imagine how good a job you will do working for me. That's what he looked for. And he chose these 12 men to go to work for him. Okay, Mark chapter 3, we're going to get into, Jesus is beginning to introduce these 12 men to what's going to be expected and what he's looking to do. What kind of Messiah was expected by the Jews at this time? And you can speak up in here. A king. Okay. Who was in charge of the known world at that time? Rome. Did they like being under Roman control? Nope. The Romans, and I love studying history. And I studied a lot about the Romans and their civilization. Being a military man, I studied a lot about the Roman soldiers. Not only were they trained in the best combat techniques, they were also thoroughly indoctrinated with cruelty. When Jesus was hung on the cross, man, I can do a 2-hour lesson on what crucifixion entails. But that lesson, you would think, man, why is he crucifying me? I can do that much because I studied their methods, their intent. Romans were very cruel. A Roman soldier did not dare come short on his expectations of cruelty, or it would be doled out to him. They were awful. And if you were living under their control, life was not, it was not rainbows and sunshine. It was awful. The Jews wanted out of that. They were promised, okay, someone's going to sit on the throne of David. Someone's going to be a king who will rule everything. Go back and look at the Old Testament prophecies of what Jesus was supposed to do. They were expecting literally a king to overthrow Rome, put Israel in that high status, and Israel was going to rule the known world like Rome did. And they thought, well, when we do this, we're going to do it better. This is what they were looking for. And this is why Jesus, many times, when someone said, oh, you're the Son of God, you're the one, we know you, you're supposed to do all of this, and they could have named it, but Jesus shut them down. He said, shh, don't say anything. Not yet. Why? Because the type of king they were looking for, they thought, okay, here's Jesus. He's supposed to be the one, and they would have put him in. They wanted to put him in as the king right then. Has anyone heard anything on the news about when they're supposed to have the coronation for Charles? Even though he's already king of England? Okay, they've got it put off until a later date. They said it would be a couple of months or so down the road. What happened at a coronation? Man, we haven't seen one, I don't think. Because when Queen Elizabeth was crowned, did they have television back then? I don't think they did. It wasn't a televised event. We haven't seen one. You remember Charles and Diana's wedding? That was on television. You remember that? This was a big thing. Okay, and the Jews were expecting this great event. It might have been, and all of a sudden, here's the king, here we are. And the party started, the celebration, all of the fanfare that goes with it. And that actual 10 or 15 minutes where they say, okay, you're the king, here's the crown. Thank you. To put it in modern terms, you the man. Hate to say it like that, but I can. I've been around young people. You the man. That means you're in charge. Okay. They were expecting this amazing ceremony to establish their king and put them in control. Jesus didn't want that because that's not what he was here for. So in chapter 3, let's continue here. Verse 20, we'll pick up there. Then Jesus entered a house, and again a crowd gathered, so that he and his disciples were not even able to eat. When his family heard about this, they went to take charge of him, for they said, he is out of his mind. And the teachers of the law who came down from Jerusalem said, he is possessed by Beelzebub, by the prince of demons. He is driving out demons. So Jesus called them and spoke to them in parables. How can Satan drive out Satan? If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. If a house is divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan opposes himself and is divided, he cannot stand. His end has come. In fact, no one can enter a strong man's house and carry off his possessions unless he first ties up the strong man. Then he can rob his house. I tell you the truth, all the sins and blasphemies of men will be forgiven them. But whoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will never be forgiven. He is guilty of an eternal sin. He said this because they were saying he has an evil spirit. Okay. Jesus, remember, he started in here. How many people has he healed? He's healed a few people by this time. Okay. What would that do? Okay, I'm going to use myself as an example this morning. If I had taken a tumble out here and then walked in here this morning And let's say my left arm looked like the mark of Zorro, and you could plainly tell, man, I've snapped bones in there to no end, and I stood here in front of you, you would know, man, that's not going to be easy to fix. Like Mom told me one time, I got smacked pretty good while I was playing, and she said, yeah, that's going to leave a mark. If I had done something like that this morning, and I walked in here like that, there's no question that there's something wrong. And let's say somebody walks up to me and touches me on the shoulder, and that arm just is just like it is right now. Again, even better. Would that get your attention? Boy, it would get mine. If somebody were to walk in here and do that, now, you're going to leave here and you're going to say, man, you should have seen that. What are people going to say? Somebody is telling a whopper. And if they were to actually see it, those people who have doubts, what would they think? How's he doing this? What kind of magic trick is this? What kind of sorcery is he using? I mean, just all of a sudden he touches me and that broken arm is back to working just fine. People are going to say, there's something driving this. Do you ever question what goes on? That's a natural part of life. Question it. How? And why? These people are saying, okay, Jesus is possessed by an evil spirit. This evil spirit is doing this through him. Jesus is saying, no, the evil spirit's causing this. And if the evil spirit is driving out the evil spirit, how can he be against himself? He's defeating his purpose, right? Satan cannot drive out Satan. Jesus is establishing who he is without coming out and saying. Why do you think he used this method to get people to know that he was the Son of God? Why didn't he just come out and say, I'm the Son of God, and I'm going to do this, and this is what's going to happen? Why didn't he do that? Actions do speak louder than words. Another thing, how quick would he get rid of the Jewish people if he did that? Why is Revelation written in figurative language? Remember, Romans are in control. Jesus comes out and said, I am the Son of God. I am the King of the Jews, and I am going to establish my kingdom. What do you think the Romans would have done? They would have declared war right there. And those Roman soldiers would have probably slaughtered all his people. They would have come after him. Yes, Jesus is far more powerful than the political machine in Rome. But do you want to cause world upheaval while you're trying to establish something in the world? Jesus is coming at this. He's saying, no, I'm not possessed by an evil spirit. I'm not working for Satan. He didn't just come right out and say, I am the Son of God. He didn't do that, but he is putting that message out there. How can you rob a strong man unless first you got to tie him up? You got to make him helpless. Okay, I'm gonna ask most of you men in here to think back. For some of us, we've got to think back a long way. When you were a kid, you remember the bully down the block, and you remember getting enough of it, and you charged into him, and you finally tried to settle it. I do. But I had one problem. That bully was about 3 years older than me and about twice as strong and about that much taller and bigger. I did what I could, but I knew I had charged into a thunderstorm. And then I got to thinking, if I could have just took my lariat rope and tied him up, then I could have worked my magic on him. That's how it works. Why do you think criminals, when they are arrested, why are they put in handcuffs? So they can't fight. Jesus said, you got to tie up the strong man, then you can do whatever you want. You can rob every possession he has. And then to take it on and drive the point home of who he is, he says, I tell you the truth. Listen to what I'm saying. He's putting out here. I tell you the truth. All the sins and blasphemies of men will be forgiven them. Okay. Who do you think he got the attention of with that statement? Jesus is telling people who he is without just coming right out in so many words saying. He's doing it. And just like you pointed out there, actions do speak louder than words. He's got their attention. Jesus was accused of being out of his mind. Even his family went to get him. They said, oh, we've got to do something about this Jesus. When I was causing trouble as a kid, who came to get me? Who came to put me back on that straight and narrow path? Generally, it was Mom. And one of the first things she said to me every time that she came to correct me was, what were you thinking? You ever hear that statement? What were you thinking? And now Jesus' family says, man, what is he thinking? We better go get him. We better do something about Jesus. So they go to where he is to take charge of him. And they said, he's out of his mind. People were accusing Jesus of being out of his mind. What else could they come up with? When Jesus is saying these things like, I'm going to forgive all of these sins. They're going to be taken care of. I'm going to do this. I'm going to heal these people. What's the first thing that someone's going to think? Yeah, right. You're out of your mind. Have you ever been told that? I don't know how many times I have heard, if you set your mind to something, you can accomplish it. We can't set our mind to something that Jesus alone could do, but we set lofty goals sometimes, right? We set some pretty lofty goals. If you set your mind to it, you can do it, right? Have you ever made a goal out there and you thought, I'm going to accomplish that? Everybody around you said, yeah, you're out of your mind. You ever heard that? I have. That's what they're saying about Jesus. And they're saying he's possessed by an evil spirit. And he's doing all of this by the authority of Satan. And Jesus has an explanation. He said, Satan can't be divided against himself. I'm driving out Satan. Satan wouldn't do that to himself. Jesus provoked a strong reaction in everybody. His own family, the teachers of the law, his own neighbors. Man, he got the fiercest reaction from his own neighbors. And the religious, I like to use this term instead of saying teachers of the law and preachers. And I use it not only about these people, but in people in modern times, these religious professionals. And I'm not going to get into that lesson. I've got another lesson on that. But Jesus, he got a strong reaction out of all of these because he taught with authority. And he had these, the ability, these miraculous powers. Now, any personal contact, whether you were for him, against him, didn't matter. Any personal contact with Jesus left a very strong impression, whether you liked him or not. When he was crucified, even those Roman soldiers were impressed, right? One of them said, man, this really was the Son of God. He struck everybody that he encountered with some strong, I want to say he left a mark on them. Continuing on here in verse 31, then Jesus' mother and brothers arrived. Standing outside, they sent someone in to call him. A crowd was sitting around him, and they told him, your mother and brothers are outside looking for you. Okay. I have been over at a friend's house when I was a kid. Maybe it was getting late in the evening. Phone rings. My friend's mother answers the phone and then calls me. Says, your mother wants to talk to you. Here Jesus is, he's a grown man at this time, and these people come in and say, your mother and brothers are outside. They're looking for you. They're telling him, okay, you stayed here a little longer than you needed to. You need to come and go home. How does Jesus come back to that? How would you come back? I told my mother, I said, still daylight outside. I can get home. You get home now. You know, didn't work with me. I had to go. Jesus said, who are my mother and brothers? Who is looking for me? Who needs me to come and go with them? Then he looked at those seated in a circle around him and said, here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does God's will is my brother and sister and mother. Jesus is telling them, okay, it is time for me to cut this bond because these are my family. These are the ones that I need to be attending to. Jesus is setting this precedent. Okay, this is the work that I need to be about doing. Now, in all of this, he's trying to prepare his 12, his apostles, for what he's going to send them out to do. You ever been to a job training where they take you to some of the more experienced workers in that job and say, okay, you're going to work alongside him, watch him, do what he does, do it like he does it. Ever been put in that situation? I have. I wasn't going to say this. Am I the youngest one here? No, there's Jonathan. He's a stalwart young man, but I'm a young man, and I have had these experiences. Haven't you? I know you have. I've been put in that position. I had to learn. You've had to learn. And Jesus is showing them, okay, I'm going to expect something out of you. These are my family. Is this congregation your family? Okay. Granted, I believe that. This congregation has took me in, they've taken me in, and they have made me a part of this family. I love every one of you. It's great. You know, they did the same thing to me when I lived in White Deer. They did the same thing to me when I lived in Borger. They did the same thing to me when I was growing up, when I was trying to grow up. I haven't done it yet. In Memphis, I have visited and preached in congregations in Shamrock, McLean, Esteline, Headley. I could name several of them. I feel like every one of them is my family, just as much as University here. They're my family. Who is your family? Now, Jesus said, no, don't worry about my mother and brothers. He said, who are my mother and brothers? This is my family. Who needs your attention? Who do you need to minister to? Jesus is answering that question with a simple example here. Who is he with right now? Now, that didn't work for me trying to tell Mom, no, I need to stay here at my buddy's house a little bit longer. Didn't work then. But here, Jesus is saying, the ones I am with right now, these are the ones that are my family, and they need to be ministered to. He's given them an example of opportunity. You teach when you're given the opportunity. Any questions so far? Man, I am a very good teacher because you don't have any questions. Either that or I've got you so confused you don't even know where to begin your question. Yes.
Why do you think that Jesus' mother and brothers came to them? I mean, obviously she believed in God. Obviously she knew he was God's son. Obviously she knew he could do miracles. So why at this time? Why do you think?
I believe it's because of the pressure from the crowd. You know, I'm going to use myself again as an example. I was not the shining son that my mother thought I was. I was not the perfect kid. But still, there were a lot of things that if I rubbed somebody the wrong way and enough people went and told my mother, it was the truth whether it was or not. There were a few occasions. Now, the crowd is looking for something to get rid of Jesus. They're looking for something to shut him up. They're trying to stop him. He's demon possessed. He's out of his mind. You need to come and do something. And I'm pretty sure that if enough people go and tell mom, hey, your kid's getting out of line, mom's going to come do something. I believe that's what it was. I don't think they were doubting who Jesus was. I just think that enough pressure from the crowd, it can influence the way you think. There were things that, and I'm sure every one of us in here has this same story. There were things that you were accused of that you didn't do. And there were things that were brought up about you just because somebody wanted you to be shut down. I'm not saying that it's that way all the time, because there was some things that I was sure enough the guilty party as a kid. And my mother, I thank God each and every day that she was the kind of mother, she was so religious, she believed in laying on of hands. And when I got out of line, her hands hurt. That's the way I was disciplined. And I thank God that she made sure I understood. I knew. Am I out of time?
Not quite.
But I'm getting close. But yes, I think it was just the crowd pressured them into thinking, okay, we need to go do something.
I don't think that she understood that he wasn't going to be a king, a physical king on earth either.
She may not have.
I know she believed and she knew he was from God, but I think that she didn't understand fully. So I think in her mind, he was going to be the king. He was the only one that knew.
Yes.
So I think, I have an idea of what my sons and my daughter are going to do, but God's plan for them is not
Exactly.
that. And so I think, it was the family that said, he's lost his mind, we got to go get him back under control. And so I think that her mind was not fully let go.
Yes, nobody knew exactly. They had an idea, but nobody knew exactly. So, okay, this type of behavior, and someone says, okay, he's lost his marbles. And enough of them go to his family and say, you need to get a hold of this Jesus guy, because look, he's lost it. Jesus, he just said, no, these are the ones who need my attention, the ones that I'm with. Where is our opportunity to minister? Let's say we go to visit. Let's say we go to Arkansas, and we're traveling on Sunday morning. We stop in Little Rabbit, Australia, or somewhere over there, and we visit a congregation. Where's our opportunity to minister? Right there. Okay, Jesus said, he who does the will of my Father, those who are with me in this, those who help me are my family. Okay, how much time I got? Maybe a minute? 2 minutes. Okay. I'm going to wrap it up and I'm going to stop right there. Would you pray with me? Father God, we thank you so much for this glorious day you have given us, that we can worship and honor you and study from your word. We thank you so much for your written word that we can learn from it. We ask that you direct us in our lives, help us to live this lesson that we study. Help us to be that example. Help us to know that if we do your will, that we are brothers and sisters of Jesus. Help us, Father, to put you first in all things and forgive us our sins. This we ask in the name of Christ. Amen. Thank you.